What I'm going to be doing in this video is going over the Columbia House problem set with assignment number 2. I encourage you to pause this video and take a crack at it on your own before we do it. But here we go. Assignment 2 says, using the three comparables listed above, determine the capitalization rate in the local market. All right. So go ahead and pause this video and take a chance. I imagine that you've kind of done that. So capitalization rate equals the net operating income over the fair market value. So we take the net operating income, or the NOI, and we divide it by the fair market value. So we're just looking at the three comparables. So we're going to do 3 different NOIs and 3 different fair market values. Now, the fact pattern has already given us the fair market values. If we go back up in this in the fact pattern to the comparables, you'll see that they sold for $550,000, $750,000, $290,000. So we already have our fair market values. So what we need to do is come up with our NOIs for each one. So on the first comparable, it's the same thing as before, what we just did on the other NOIs, but we're going to take the rent per month times 12 months to get a year, plus the number of units. We have $650 per month times 12 months, for 10 units to get $78,000. We plug that in right there. Same thing, we don't have any commercial, tenant, or other income, so our gross income is $78,000. Our vacancy, again, 5%. This time we have our gross residential at $78,000. 5% is going to be $3,900. Plug that in under vacancy residential. Our effective gross rent is what we do, is we take our gross income and we minus the vacancy residential to come up with it. So we come up with $74,100, and you plug that in right there. We take the operating expenses, again, that came from the fact pattern. Go up to comp 1. Expenses averaging $30,000 per year. So that's already given to us in the assignment. So operating expenses of $30,000 per year, we plug that in underneath the effective gross rent right there under operating expenses. And then in order to get our NOI, we take our effective gross rent and we minus our operating expenses. Again, use these symbols on the left to help you as you're going through. We don't have any reserve deposits again. So 74,100 minus 30,000 equals our 44,100 NOI. So we have our NOI for our very first comp. Excellent. So we can use that NOI, 44,100, and we have our fair market value of the 550,000 to get our formula. 44,100 divided by 550,000 equals 0.0802. So that means our capitalization rate for comp 1 is 8%. So you take this number and you make it a percent by dragging the decimal over 2 points, and you get a percentage for comp 1 of 8.02 as our capitalization rate for our first unit. All right. Moving on to comp number 2. Same thing as before. We're going to start at the very top. Just plug in the numbers and go. Rent for the month times 12 months times the number of units. Here we have $725 per month, 12 months, 12 units, and we get $104,400 as our gross residential rent. Plug it in right there, top left. Same thing, no commercial, no contributions, no other income, so we move down to gross income. Vacancy rate is still 5%. We take that gross residential rent, 5% of it is going to be $5,220, and we plug that number in right there. To get our effective gross rent, we minus gross income. We take the vacancy out of gross income, that is gross income minus vacancy residential. So 104,400 minus the 5,220, and we end up with 99,180. Plug that number in right there. Again, operating expenses were given to us in the fact pattern. This time it's going to be 37,500. Plug it in right there. If you're wondering where that comes from, go back to the fact pattern. Comp number 2. The units rent for $725 per month and expenses are 37,500. So it's right there. That's where we're getting our operating expenses. Once we have our operating expenses, we can take our effective gross rent minus those operating expenses. Again, no reserve deposits, we can come up with our NOI. So 99,180 minus the 37,500, and we come up with 61,680. Great, NOI, very important number. That NOI divided by the fair market value gives us our capitalization rate. So that is capitalization rate equals NOI over fair market value. 61,680. Fair market value, again, comes from the fact pattern, 750,000. We plug those numbers in, and we get a 0.0822. Move the decimal 2 places to get our percentage, and our capitalization rate for Comp 2 is 8.22%. Excellent. Moving on. Third one, the pattern should be getting pretty familiar. Just plug in the numbers and go in the same pattern. So $800 per month for 12 months with only 4 units this time. We're coming up with 38,400. Plug that into the top. No commercial rents, no tenant contributions, no other income. So our gross income is 38,400. Vacancy rate 5%. So we take our gross residential rent, times that by 0.05 to get our vacancy, 1,920. Plug that in right there. And you know what's happening next. In order to get our effective gross rent, we're going to take our gross income minus the vacancy residential. Again, no vacancy for commercial. So we have our 38,400 minus the 1,920, and you end up with 36,480. Plug that number into your effective gross rent. Now operating expenses, again, if you're wondering where that came from, you probably already know by this point, having done these other ones, but it's in the fact pattern. So 4-unit building sold for $290,000, that's our fair market value. $800 per month, that's our rent. And $14,000 per year, that's our expenses or our operating expenses. So our operating expenses are $14,000. Plug that in right there underneath the operating expenses. Now we can minus our effective gross rent minus our operating expenses, no reserve deposits. We end up with $22,480. That is our net operating income for comp number 3. All right, so again, plug it in. Net operating income, $22,480. Our fair market value, we get it from the fact pattern. We end up with this decimal, 0.0775. Move it 2 places, and we end up with a capitalization rate of 7.75%. Now, the original question, to go back to it, using the 3 comparables listed above, determine the capitalization rate in the local market. So this is part science, part art. And so if you were to average all these numbers out, you get a 7.997 or so. So you could round it up to an nice even 8% and say that the capitalization rate for the local market, all of them together, is about 8%. And that is assignment number 2.